I'm Grandma Helen, and I'm a foster grandparent. I have been with the program for 10 years. I am also a leader of the Great Books, the Junior Great Books, and I read to children. And I was with Sons, and I am with Woodrow Wilson during the winter months at school. And I love reading to the children, and I think they enjoy it too. And we are doing a program, and I have some children over here who I'd love to read to. And her name is Erica, Andrea, and Katie. And now we're going to read a story. Have you read this story? You haven't read it?
No.
The Laughing Dragon by Mayhood. It's a funny story. And sometimes you feel like you want to laugh with the dragon, or maybe you want to cry for the dragon. It's very, very colorful, as you see. Okay? On a cold autumn morning a long time ago, the Emperor of Japan was about to eat his morning egg when suddenly, snap, crackle, pop, and jumped a little smiling dragon. There he is. He seemed very friendly, so the emperor decided to call him Hojo and kept him as the imperial pet. Now Hojo soon became a great favorite with everyone by making himself useful around the palace. He made delicious soups, had a very high hand with pastry, and the emperor loved his pancakes. In addition, he was always gay and cheerful, and he could sing, play chess, enjoy a joke, and his hot breath kept the palace warm, which was a great comfort to the emperor who suffered from cold feet. How'd you like to have somebody like that around your house? Hojo's hot breath was a mixed blessing, however, for every time he laughed, flames shot in all directions. When everyone complained, the emperor always replied, "It's nothing. His breath is worse than his bite." As Hojo grew bigger and bigger, his breath became hotter and hotter, and more people got burnt. At last, a group of courtiers, still smoldering, appealed to the emperor for help. "He must be cured before we are all burnt to a cinder," they cried. So the emperor sent for the imperial physician. The imperial physician fitted Hojo with a muzzle, but that didn't work. He tried to put the flames out with buckets and buckets of medicine, but it all turned to steam. Finally, he gave him hundreds of anti-laughing pills, but they all turned red hot in his stomach. He coughed them out and laughed more than ever. Although the emperor had cold feet, he had a warm heart and wanted to keep Hojo despite his flame-throwing habit. But when the palace caught fire, he had to give the order for Hojo to be sent to some place where he could do no harm. "I hate to do this," he called, "but your trouble is that you can only see the funny side of life." Hojo was left on a bleak, fireproof island far away from Japan, the emperor and all his friends. It wasn't true, he thought, that if you laughed, the whole world laughed with you. And they left him on the island all by himself. Poor little guy. And he laughed all the time. Hojo was feeling very doleful when he met a turtle called George. "Who's the laughing dragon?" he asked. "I am," replied Hojo. "You mean you were," said George. "I have never seen anyone so gloomy. You would be sad if you were sent to an island just because of laughing too much," said Hojo, and told George the whole story. "You should always look before you laugh," murmured George, and ducked into his shell as Hojo started to chuckle. At night, George was lucky he had his shell to sleep to. And for as Hojo slept tucked up in his blankets, dreaming of his happy days in Japan, he laughed so much that he lit up like a lighthouse and sprinkled George with sparks. Although Hojo missed Japan, George kept him from feeling miserable. Each day they lay in the sun, toasted homemade muffins, and Hojo's breath was so warm that the island soon became covered in exotic flowers and migrating birds from Japan. And there they are. That's what his hot breath is doing. He'd be nice to have in a garden, wouldn't he? Hmm?
Yeah.
The birds were full of gossip. The Japanese are having the worst winter for over 100 years, they chirped. Everyone is freezing, and there are icicles on the emperor's toes. Hojo was very depressed. If I could get back now, I could keep my friends warm, he told George. Only if you learn to control yourself, George, you will have to practice breath control and try holding your breath. I will tell you sad stories to prevent you from laughing. As George told sad stories, Hojo found he could hold his breath quite easily and slowly. And he got fatter and fatter and fatter. You keep holding your breath. You won't have to laugh. And much to his surprise, he floated up into the air. I can fly, shouted Hojo. And there he is. You have turned into a hot air balloon, exclaimed George. Now with the bird's help, you can fly to Japan. If I can keep you from laughing. When Hojo had been fitted with a basket to carry George, they set off, and soon they were floating high above the clouds. Try to hold your breath until we are over land, shouted George, as he called out sad story after story. He was trying to make him be sad so that he would stay filled up with the air. Over Japan it was bitterly cold, and the whole country was so deeply buried in snow that there was no sign of the emperor or his palace. To cheer Hojo up, George told him the joke about the cabbage with the cauliflower ears, and Hojo laughed as his hot breath escaped. He became smaller and smaller until they drifted down into the snow. George and the birds were glad they had Hojo's warm breath to protect them from the icy cold. And as George kept up a steady stream of jokes, the snow started to melt. Isn't that neat?
Yes.
Would you like to have a pet like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
We'd have summer and a winter, wouldn't we? Before long, with George telling every joke he could think of, Hojo had melted a tunnel down to the palace where the emperor and his family were blue with cold. We all missed you, said the emperor, and especially your hot breath. And Hojo quickly made some hot soup and had everyone warm and happy before you could say, Boy, Maria Sendoria Satosis. That's a very long word, and don't ask me what it means. I have no idea. Thank goodness no one asked for turtle soup, thought George. Hojo was so happy, he didn't stop laughing until winter had completely gone. As he melted the snow, the ground became covered in flowers, trees blossomed, and birds sang in the branches. There were no more complaints from the couriers. When one of them went past, George would call out, "A chuckle a day keeps the snow away." And the emperor presented George with the Grand Imperial Medal and appointed him imperial storyteller and breath controller with the job of controlling Hojo's breath. So he had George for a little pet. From that day on, Hojo's flames were kept in check by George's stories. But whenever he felt like a good laugh, George told his funniest jokes, and Hojo put on a spectacular firework display. And there he is. We'd have 4th of July all the time, wouldn't we? Huh? What'd you think about that story?
I liked it. I liked it.
Did you like that story? And there he is in all his bloom. Don't you think he's a neat-looking one?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think he's even got a smile on his face. What do you think?
I think he has a smile.
Huh? You
He
think?
has a smile on
Can you see a smile on his face? I
Yeah,
can.
I can tell.
Yeah, I think he was a pretty neat person. What would you do if you had a friend like the turtle, George? Do you have a pet turtle?
No.
Did you ever have a pet turtle?
No. Yeah, I did.
You did? What was his name?
I didn't name him. I didn't get to name him. We found him when we were going swimming in the creek at my grandma Sheila's, and we brought him home. We brought him in the house, and the cat didn't like him, so we had to take him outside.
Oh, what happened to him?
And we put him in a little blanket on the ground, and he went back to the swamp, the thing.
Oh, he went back to the swamp. Well, that was a good place for him to go. How about a dragon? Did you ever have a dragon for a pet?
No.
No? Why not?
Because they burned my house down.
Burn your house down? Would you have liked to have a dragon?
Yes. Yeah.
Would you like to have lived in the days of the dragon?
Yeah.
I think I would too. A lot of adventure. We ready for another story?
Yeah.
Okay. And this one, I think you'll like. It's called Christina Katerina, and it's called The Box. And she was very, very creative. To her mother's dismay, her mother couldn't keep up with her. Okay? But I think it's something that maybe you would like to have done. What she would do with the box. Christina Katrina liked things. Tin cups, old dresses, worn out ties, empty boxes. And any of those things, but mostly boxes. Hat boxes, bakery boxes, with see-through lids, and shoe boxes. She liked all kinds of boxes. Best of all, she liked big boxes. So big, she was happy. Indeed, one sleepy summer day, when even her sometimes friend Fats Watson was out of town, to see a truck deliver a great tall box. It came on a refrigerator. Oh, how grand and new, Christina's mother said, looking at the refrigerator. It is. Oh, it really is, said Christina, looking at the box. She didn't care what was inside. She wanted the box. And she quickly claimed the box for her own and dragged it under the apple tree. To Mother, who was very neat and tidy, it seemed that boxes were for basements or trash barrels, not for front yards under the apple tree. But she decided that it wouldn't hurt. It couldn't possibly hurt for one day or two to have the big box in the front yard there under the apple tree. That afternoon, Christina's father cut a window and door in the box, and Christina painted on turrets, a drawbridge, and boats for the door. And the box became a castle. She put sticks on the windows for iron bars, and she brought in all her cups and saucers and a lot of Fig Newtons in case there was a battle and she couldn't get out. So there she is. That's what they built out of that box. A castle.
They recycled it. I said they recycled it.
Recycled it. That's a good idea. She recycled it. For 2 days, she and her bears lived and played in her castle peacefully. That was pretty big You know, that was a pretty big box to do all that. Until Fat Watson came. He sneaked into her castle while she was out to lunch and ate all her fig Newtons. And she locked him in until he hollered, "I'm sorry," 15 minutes later. When she finally let him out, Fats gave Christina's castle a kick, and over it went, smack on its side. Mother came out and saw the fallen box. "I see that's the end of the castle, Christina," she said with a smile, and started to haul it away. "Oh, but that's no castle," said Christina, hauling it back. That's my clubhouse." And it was for 3 long days, right there under the apple tree. Christina changed the window into a door, and the door into a window. She put in 2 benches for members and a chair for the president, and she painted "Keep Out," "Members Only," and "Danger to Enemies on the Outside." And there she is. So it became a castle, and now it was a clubhouse. Out of one great big refrigerator box. Was that imagination?
Yes.
Erica?
Yeah.
Was that imagination? Would you have thought of something like that?
Yeah.
You would have. Did you ever imagine doing something with a box?
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
I made one to a clubhouse,
You made it into a clubhouse?
and then my mom threw it away.
Your mom threw it away. Just like Christina's mom. Wanted to get rid of it, huh? Too bad. And she let Fedge join. Then they met in the clubhouse, which was very dark when the door was closed, and very secret. And they spit on a nickel and swore to be friends forever. And they were. Her and Fats became very good friends. Until one day when Fats got angry at always being vice president, he climbed on the clubhouse roof and promised to sit there until Christina made him president. Only the roof caved in first, and Christina disbanded the club. So again he destroyed her club, huh? The castle and now the club. Was he a friend? No. When Mother saw the satin box, she brushed her hands together. Now she would have her nice, neat yard. "Well," she said, "that is the end of the clubhouse," and she tugged it toward the street. "But that's no clubhouse," said Christina, tugging it back again. "That's my racing car." Hermione and I late for a race. Before speeding off, Christina put the top on the bottom, turned the window into a cockpit, and on the sides painted 2 magnificent curling silver horns, which she blasted at Fats every time she rounded the apple tree. And there they are in her racing car. Is that imagination?
Yeah.
For 2 days, she raced around the yard, and she won every time. But why wouldn't she? She was the only one in the race. Until Fat said he'd take a look at the motor, that it didn't sound quite right. When he cut off the nose to get at the motor, the car collapsed. What's wrong with Fats? What do you think is wrong with that guy? Huh?
Maybe he's jealous.
Maybe he's jealous. You think he's doing good things when he's doing that to her?
No.
No? I don't think so either. Would you have done that?
No.
No. Christina's mother was relieved. "Well, that is the end of the racing car," she said, and she pulled the cardboard toward the trash barrel. "But that's no racing car," said Christina, pulling it back again. "That's the floor of my summer mansion, and I'm going to have a ball." And she did, right there under the apple tree. Now, how do you think she did that?
Just unfolded the car.
Just unfolded the, oh, you saw the picture. She patted the box out flat, drew furniture on each flap, a stove, a refrigerator for the kitchen, a bed for the bedroom, and a grand piano and a violin for the living room, so there would be music for her hall. Then she and her bears and Fats dressed up in gowns, high heels, and they invited kings and queens and some presidents and one vice president to come. And everybody came and they danced and danced until their feet hurt. And they had to take off their shoes. Even without shoes, Christina had a wonderful time. And there they are, having a ball in her mansion. Until Fats decided the floor needed scrubbing. He sprayed it down with the garden hose and mopped it until the floor puckered and grew lumpy and finally fell apart. What did he do?
Ruined it.
Hmm?
Ruined it.
He destroyed it. When Mother came out a little later, looked at her front yard, she shook her head and said, "Well," and then, "Is this the end of your grand floor?" "What floor?" asked Christina, who was running by. "Oh, you mean that old rag box? Well, let's do throw it away." And Mother breathed a sigh of relief. At last she could have her nice, neat yard back again. "But be quick," Christina said. What do you think's going to happen?
I think she's going to find another box.
You think she's going to find another box? Fats' mother got a washer and dryer today, and he's bringing 2 ships down. Now, I said my mother wouldn't mind a bit if we sailed them here in our front yard, right under our apple tree. Did you like that story?
Yeah.
I thought it was a good story. I thought it was a unique story. Just goes to show you what your imagination can do and how creative you can be with maybe something very, very small. Okay? Did you like the story?
Yeah.
All right, so did I. And I think that's the end of this session. And I am a foster grandparent, I said before. And if you want to know anything about or learn anything about the foster grandparent, which we are in need of volunteers, you can call your Council on Aging. They will help you. Thank you.